The power of resilience against teen dropout rates. When faced with rising teen dropout rates in the United States, where the teacher plays just as important of a role in the lives of youth as the parent, it's necessary to develop educational resilience in youth so that they may overcome at-risk behaviors and diminish the effect of socioeconomic circumstances. This educational support must come from teachers, as well as counselors and parents, but primarily from the school, since parents can access parenting resources through the educational community. This educational resilience must begin with the adults and then be taught to the youth. Simply providing youth with opportunities without the active involvement of parents and teachers in student success has a much greater margin for failure. For the individual student experiencing any combination of dropout risk factors, ethnic minority, stressful family life, or a learning disability, the decisive moment of leaving school is a process which happens over time and is aggravated by the responses from parents or teachers. It's more accurate to say that many students fade out or are occasionally pushed out of schools by institutions who are reluctant to handle students with behavioral issues. Dropout is a term which, as author David Capuzzi writes, implies that school dropout is an event instead of a process and that the student is the sole decision maker in the process. Dropout has become synonymous with quitting or giving up on the part of the student, rather than taking into account the external circumstances which have, over time, brought the student to leave the school. The blame for a student dropping out should not be placed entirely on the parent either. In some cases, the parent of a student who leaves school is a dropout themselves. Many parents are also working jobs during hours which are at odds with times when the youth would be at home doing their homework. Capuzzi suggests that the ideal parent in the homes of students who are more successful in school would use encouragement, praise, and other positive responses to school and academic work completed by their children. Parents with learning disabilities or those who do not speak English as their first language can unintentionally project a negative response to their child's homework and become easily frustrated or unable to help at all. This does not, however, discount parents' ability to overcome their own socioeconomic circumstances. When resiliency is present in parenting strategies, coming directly from the parent's own instilled sense of resiliency, many times those circumstances are mitigated and the parent can still positively encourage the student in school. It is when resiliency becomes challenging for the parent that the student lacks an example to follow. It is within the school where students, teachers, and parents come together that issues of resiliency can be addressed. First, the policies of the school in question must be supportive towards students with difficult circumstances or different learning styles. For example, a school in a low-income area with crowded classrooms must understand that many of the students' financial and family circumstances may never change, just as their learning disabilities can improve but never disappear completely. The ability for teachers to provide more one-on-one instruction is an idealistic goal which depends largely on funding and class size rather than teacher motivation. That said, it should instead be the goal of the school as a whole to teach educational resilience to their students and encourage a sense of community. When teachers encourage more acceptance between students, they diminish circumstances which cause a student to stand out or be rejected. In a great way, the school is its own solution to the dropout rates. Instead of blaming the students for their inability to conform or parents for not providing the needed support at home, the school environment must change to suit a more diversified student body. An example of a school-based resiliency building solution could be found through parenting, reading, and writing classes for those parents who have the motivation but lack the skills to help with their child's education. As mentioned, adult support is essential to student development and continued success since, as Capuzzi implies, it enables students to develop trust and learn from their challenges. Trust and a positive attitude in a student not only benefit the individual's life, but the health of the educational community as well. In turn, students learn to support each other so that they achieve one-on-one instruction between themselves rather than relying on the teacher to provide it. This instills a sense of community as well as empowering youth. The United States' educational policies of the past have pointed to the student as the common factor when considering dropout rates. However, it must be the school and teachers who take responsibility. It is not realistic to expect the school to mitigate all of the circumstances which hinder a positive educational experience, but they play an important role nonetheless. In order for students to be successful, no matter their ability to fund extracurricular programs, a school must make it a policy to teach educational resilience as well as the traditional subjects. Still, it is not enough to simply teach resilience. Teachers and parents must believe in a student's ability to succeed rather than expecting them to fail. A small amount of extra time on the part of the teacher, perhaps 5 minutes of their undivided attention every day in class, can go a long ways towards showing youth that we have not given up on them. It's important to remember that children are not born cynical. Neither do they learn defeatism in utero. They are taught these things and become products of their upbringing. When a community gives up on youth, we teach them to give up on themselves. But hope remains, since the opposite is just as true. When a community believes in youth, we teach them to believe in themselves.